Welcome, shooters, bruisers, and bolt screwers. Today I will be teaching you the bare-bones basic strategies within public lobbies, assuming the players aren't griefers, exploiters that keep summoning knives until the game crashes, and other stuff. In case my voice sounds weird, it's because my fourth attempt of recording this. OBS keeps crashing. I'm not using a script. And yeah. Anyhow, let's start off with where the players will generally be. Generally speaking, this will represent you and where most of your teammates will be. They'll start out at the front, since Knights 1 through 3 will mostly have scavs that don't use firearms, or at least not to the point that's dangerous. As the Knights progress, they'll move more back and back, until they're essentially here. This follows the most common scav strategy, or pathfinding rather. They'll come around here. I guess they can technically also appear around here, but that doesn't occur all too often. In case you may have noticed, this is not something you would want to just listen to. And in case you're wondering about the stripes here, this is actually colored with pixels, hence why it looks so weird in the recording. Otherwise, possible pathings are here, assuming you hunker up all the way in this back area, which is basically never going to happen. I only encountered it once, hence why I put it here. Not to mention that the dotted lines represent possible flank routes the scavs may take due to their own pathing or due to one of your allies going in a certain direction. Here, for example, it's typically because they retreat between the red and blue container, or because they went too far behind the red one. Here, however, it tends to just occasionally occur depending on how far into these various areas you tend to lean to. Otherwise, between red and blue, it's typically better if you want to have more time and an easier time firing at the enemies with your firearms. Lastly, bunker. Or it's called bunker because you're just bunkering up in the study or office area where typically paperwork would be done, but instead you're storing your explosives. Again, there's one flank route, but usually they will just come around the long way, meaning that you can flood them with whatever traps and arsenals you have. This, however, will mostly focus on what you see basically every time you start a new round, or the next 10 days. Let's discuss explosives. Depending on which strategy you are using, of course, you will want to have them where the chokes are, where the most enemies gather. And as for this one, you can also place it along this line here, or the possible flank route in case you're paranoid, but personally, I wouldn't waste a C4 or a proxy mine on an area that is less likely to be crowded. If you're doing bunker, the worst that can happen is like 3 going the flank route. 3 scavs, possibly one of them being a runner. While here, you won't need to worry about the possible flanks as long as you guys stick together and do not overextend behind the red container. Pujins is pretty typical. And as for this one, you just want to place it along here, where the main choke is, and same goes for bunkering up. Next, we get to Blitzer, Tickspider, and Mindflayer. Again, mostly where scavs will start, and depending on your class, you might want to start brainwashing them earlier with Mindflayer, or lob your explosives as Blitzer far behind to immediately start getting them so that you don't accidentally stun your teammates over here and then they die. This placement here is mainly for Tickspiders and possibly Blitzer, assuming you've been backed all the way into the corner. Assuming you've been backed all the way into this corner here. Since you'd be far enough from the explosion, and the fragments can affect the enemies and not you and your team. Also, this audio will be unedited. As for Sovereign, yes, if you do miss, you place a little trap on the ground, wall, ceiling, whatever. This can hex up to 5 enemies, but if my information is correct, there's somehow some half hex, where they're like not completely hexed, but they have some sort of debuff. Otherwise, with Sovereign, if you don't want to follow these strats, you can just stick to the whole shove enemy, kill them, get apparition, or spirit, whatever they're called. Crosslinks tend to place their traps over here, possibly even more stretched, in order to bind more enemies. Or if you're backed into the corner, they will typically place it around here to have an easier firing line, compared to possibly binding the sniper over here, and then it takes even longer to take him down. Zealot in general tends to be around here. While if they decide to team up with a Hivemind, they will be more likely to place their shield here. This assumes that the Zealot will place their shield, and the Hivemind will use Divide as a form of, well, carpet or path of death, since it maximizes the amount of bugs the scavs will inhale, and therefore puke, aka be slowed and stunned, where the turret will typically finish them off, unless they're pretty resistant to the bugs or have a lot of health. Otherwise, for nights 1 through 3, possibly until 5, they will tend to just also do a wall, since, well, yes, it does make it pretty easy for a firing squad. It's not the most effective in killing them securely. Of course, there's also Bunker, which is all the way over here, and it's literally just a general strategy. If you look at this again, you see that the turret is mainly where the most enemies will be, and not on the flank, because that would be wasting possible cover with the destructible shield, and the Hivemind just gets the most advantage by having a cluster of enemies in one tight hallway. Hence why this here works. There we go. This will almost like come down here, and this is really extremely good for explosive classes, since this area here is really tight. Otherwise, if you do want to use Disperse for some reason, it tends to be used around here for nights 1 through 3. It's just that Disperse is a jack of all trades, hence why it's not really used all too often. All other classes don't really have traps. Like, I can't really give you a tutorial for when to fire yourself up as an immoralator, since that puts you at risk of overheating, possibly exploding yourself. Not to mention, immoralator is a melee class, and the flamethrower is really short-ranged. Drifter has a teleport, so I guess you could, like, just teleport over here to get a few kills, get out, but generally speaking, this is more so for the defensive classes that have the ability to place defenses. Thanks for watching, and I hope this video doesn't corrupt. But yeah, audio won't be edited, and I will put in timestamps for it, in case you don't want to watch everything. As always, if you're new to the game, you can also ask the players. They will tend to be really friendly about that, except they tell you to press 0. Do not. It's kind of a tradition in all of the devs games that you have a kill bind, like in TF2. Except in TF2, you actually need to go to the console and make it, while here you just press 0, or in Gravedigger, you press backspace. Also, if you press 0 in the game here, with a firearm, you will spend 1 bullet for the nulling of yourself. So again, thanks for watching. See ya.